Alright everyone, welcome back. Gonna be breaking down UFC Vegas 9. I am coming back, well, maybe just for this card, we'll see what happens, but I stopped the videos because there wasn't really that much interest in them, and also I had a few people during the week message me say they would like a video for the card, and they would like, for the videos to return, so because I've got the whole card studied, and it's Thursday, I may as well do it, just to get it out of the way. Um, But honestly, see the last two cards, they were hard to, do videos on because there was a lot of pullouts. We had that uh, Jared Mearshark card where he pulled out an hour before the event. We had the on the same night OSP pull out from the card on like pretty sure it was like a couple hours notice, and also it is what it is. Also, it didn't really have that much of a good read on those cards, to be honest. So, but this one I do feel like I have a good read on it. So you know, we'll do a video for this one. But last event we went 6-1 on live bet for a profit of 21 units, which is always good. So if you want to jump on board, Twitter's in the description, and fire me across DM, just asking to jump on board, and I'll happily gladly welcome you to the Discord. So yes, Brian Kelleher versus Kevin Navidad. It says here it's the first fight of the card, but I'm not really sure whether it is because the bout order is all messed up for this card. It's sort of changed about, but doesn't really matter anyway. Brian Kelleher, minus 210 favourite for this one against Kevin Navidad, who's coming in on short notice. Can see why he's a favourite, but for me, he is just too much of a wide favourite. Navidad making his UFC debut on short notice. Immediate red flags for him. Kelleher, a red flag for me would be just the price. Minus 210. It's hard to play against, or it's hard to play for someone who is basically hard to trust. Kelleher is the much better fighter than Navidad, I would say. Just overall, in terms of fight experience, in terms of skill set. But honestly, I've no interest in playing this fight, just due to the price and stuff, and there's a couple of unknowns. So, but I will go with Kelleher by. I'm gonna say sub here, but who knows? To be honest, it's a hard fight to cap. Alright, so next up, Cole Smith versus Hunter Azure. Cole Smith plus 170 underdog here, which is I think is a bit off, to be honest. Cole Smith is the type of fighter who he controls fighters up against the cage. Doesn't necessarily take them down, but he just works the backpack position. He likes to stay on fighters' backs. He likes to get a hook in and just work up against the cage for great intervals of the fight and score points that way. That's what he does. But Hunter Azure, he's a good wrestler. He's a hard guy to get down. He is a hard guy to implement, a grappling heavy game on. So I'm gonna lean Azure here. He does have the striking advantage here, even though Cole Smith is a much longer fighter. He has 3 inches of height on Azure, but Azure actually has a reach advantage, which is interesting. But basically, I think Hunter Azure is going to implement the same game he implemented against Brian Kelleher, where he was working the jab, he was fighting long, he was fighting really well up until he got knocked out in the second round, and that was only a couple of months ago. So quick turnaround here for Hunter Azure, especially with a very bad knockout loss to Kelleher. But he's probably recovered in that time. But as an 8-15 favourite, I wouldn't want to play Azure in this one, and his odds are just going down more and more. So while I think he does win this fight, probably by decision, I think the line is off, and I think Cole Smith, if you watch all of his fights, he makes the fights like a lot closer than it should be. He's always involved in close fights. What I'm trying to say is there. In the Miles Johnson fight, you could argue he won that one. Split decision. So, I think this would be a good one for live bet, but no pre-fight bet for me, but I will go for Hunter Azure. Next up, Marcus Rogerio de Lima. In another heavyweight fight against Alexander Romanov. So Rogerio de Lima, good stand-up fighter, has good Muay Thai, but if you look at his record, he is kind of round one or bust. He does have the decision win over Adam. Not even going to try and say his second name, but he has a decision win there. But other than that, it's been mostly round one or bust for Rogerio de Lima, and we know where his weaknesses are. One, a weakness of his is the ground game, being on his back, as seen with his 4 submission losses. And then a second, weakness of his game is cardio. Historically, Rogerio de Lima's cardio has been questionable. We've seen it in the OSP fight, we've seen it in the Struve fight. Both fights he was winning, I would say, especially Struve fight more. But he ends up getting subbed in both of them. So he's a hard guy to trust, especially if he's come up against a grappler like Romanov here, who will be the he will be the bigger heavyweight here. He will be the bigger and better grappler. He comes from a Greco-Roman background. Most of his takedowns come from either body locks or German suplexes, as seen in the Freitas fight, where he German suplex Freitas and ends up knocking him out with the slam itself, with the takedown itself, which is interesting. And then we'll see him when he is on top of fighters. He's very heavy on top, and you can see it. You can see fighters grimace when he's on top. We've seen him sub Grigori from top, and it was more to do with position rather than submission. Grigori didn't really like the top control, and he didn't really have the forearm choke in really. He just tapped from it, which is interesting. And then also in the Yuri fight here, he also basically taps from top position, like no actually submission being fully in or a blood choke being in. It was more the heavy top game from Romanov. So if Romanov does get Rogerio de Lima down, which you expect him to do, Rogerio de Lima is going to have a lot of problems, especially coming in here with 36% takedown defense record, especially against a grappler like Romanov. That's a problem in itself. So we'll go with Romanov by sub here, I'm going to say, because most of his wins are by sub. And in de Lima's last 4 losses, he has lost them all by sub. So yeah, I've got Romanov by decision here. I think it's a good style matchup for him, this one, especially when you consider de Lima, natural light heavyweight, and his 4th fight up at heavyweight against the bigger man in Romanov. So yeah, Romanov by sub there. Up next, Montana Del Rosa versus Viviana Araujo. Viviana Araujo coming in here on the back of a loss against Jessica Ai, where she gassed last 2 rounds. She won the first round, but gassed them 2 final rounds. But decision loss over Jessica Ai is nothing really to feel bad about, because Jessica Ai, title contender, accomplished fighter in this division. Other than that loss, she has went 2-0 on UFC. Decision win over Alexis Davis, which is a good fight in the cap. knocked out Bernardo in her UFC debut. So she is mostly a striker, falls back on her jiu-jitsu when she gets took down, but primarily a striker. But, coming up against a grappler here in Del Rosa, who looks to take fighters down and work her jiu-jitsu game, and, control them on the ground for a decent bit of time. 3 out of her last 4 UFC wins actually come by submission. And then against Mara Borella, she won by decision. Took her down, had her back for a large majority of the fight, just worked her ground game. And, Viviana Araujo hasn't get took down in UFC yet, but she hasn't really come up against, a big grappler such as Del Rosa, who actively pursues the takedown. So, Viviana Araujo, she's hard to play here for me as minus 185 favourite, but can see why she's favourite and I expect her to win here. Probably by decision, but I think the juice isn't worth the squeeze here because Del Rosa does have past the victory here. She's the bigger fighter. If she does get Araujo down, she will have success from top game, but whether she does or not remains to be seen. I'll go with Araujo by decision there. Up next, final prelim of the card, or well, so it says here on Topology, is Bartosz Fabinski versus Andre Muniz. Andre Muniz, accomplished jiu-jitsu artist on the international level, Pan Am champion in jiu-jitsu, 2nd degree black belt, IBJJFF champion also. So very accomplished jiu-jitsu artist. Not the type of guy you want to take down and try and stay in his full guard for the whole fight, which is Fabinski's whole game. Did it against Darren Stewart, did it against Amin Mack. Just in all of his fights, he's very one-dimensional fighter. One-trick pony is Fabinski. And to be honest, this fight reminds me a lot of Ben Askren versus Damian Maia. It is one where a wrestler, his only real path to victory is staying on top, but he has to have the perfect fight to win. And if he's taken down the better jiu-jitsu artist, it's just going to be trouble for Fabinski because he's going to end up in some hairy spots here against Muniz, who's just going to be throwing up arm bars, triangles the whole time. So Fabinski's going to have problems here if he takes Muniz down. And interestingly enough, Fabinski is the, let's see, 7-11, minus 165 favourite here, which is kind of surprising to me because I think Muniz should be favourite in all honesty, or it should be a pick'em line, because it's just trouble for Fabinski if he takes Muniz down. We haven't actually seen Fabinski against a accomplished jiu-jitsu artist such as Fabinski. We've seen him fight, stand-up artists such as Darren Stewart, Emil Mack, where he's had success. In the Prazeres fight, a jiu-jitsu artist, they get choked out in 1 round, but Prazeres dropped him and stuff. Sort of hard to get a read there, but honestly, I think Muniz wins here by sub, to be honest. As I say, Fabinski will look to have this fight in Muniz's full guard, and Muniz is just going to be throwing up arm bars, triangles the whole time. Especially for like a big guy, he throws them arm bars and guillotines and triangle chokes up very well. He's very athletic. And to be honest, he will have the advantage here on the feet, so I'm going to give the edge to Muniz here. I personally cap him in the 55-45 region, so he's not a bad underdog to play here. So yeah, Muniz by sub there. Talking about jiu-jitsu artists, here's another one. Thiago Moises versus Julian Turner. Thiago Moises, another jiu-jitsu artist who's accomplished on the international level. Black belt, he trains at ATT now. When he gets fighters down, he's a problem. But on the feet, there's a lot to be desired. He's just not very good on the feet, to be honest. Maybe he has improved since the Michael Johnson fight. But saying that was only 4 months ago. So probably not. But he is training at ATT and he's improving every day. You know, being at a big camp like that, you'd expect him to improve every day. But especially in the stand-up department and the wrestling department. So, you know, I think he has improved his wrestling game since he joined the UFC. He couldn't take Dariush down. He had some success with takedowns against Kurt Holloway. And then Ismagulov he couldn't take down, but Ismagulov is a problem. 155, I think. We've seen him in the second round just run out and take Johnson down after a very poor round one. So basically Moises, his whole game is taking fighters down and snatching up a choke, heel hook, Achilles lock against Michael Johnson. And to be honest, I think Jalen Turner shouldn't be as big of a dog as he is. He's like 6'4" plus 150 dog in this spot. But honestly, I don't think he should be as big of a favourite because he does have a major advantage in size and also stand up. Thiago Moises, he continuously has this problem where he gets backed up along the fence behind the black lines. We've seen it in the Michael Johnson fight in round one. We've seen it against Ismagulov. But Ismagulov and Michael Johnson are very different fighters than Jalen Turner because they're both, you know, boxing heavy, kickboxing heavy. But Jalen Turner's, he's kind of more of a Muay Thai stand-up game. He throws a lot of knees, a lot of kicks. But to be honest, if he's going to be throwing them against Moises will have opportunities to take him down. So I think there will be spots in here for Moises to take Jalen Turner down. Because he's so long. Jalen Turner, you know, he's not this short, stocky guy like Ismagulov is, where he's hard to take down, he's hard to get underneath the hips. He's more of a long guy who, you know, you can't hit single legs on, you can't take him down. So to be honest, it's hard. It's one 50-50 for me. I can see Moises taking him down and snatching up something across 50 minutes because I don't think no way Jalen Turner gets Moises out of this one. Don't think he knocks him out. I think Jalen Turner basically wins by decision or Moises wins by sub. I think those are the only two outcomes for me anyway in this fight. So if you're interested in like hedging props and stuff, this might be a good fight because for me, I can't really see any outcomes other than those two, especially if, you know, if either fighter wins, it's either going to be by one of those outcomes. So yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Moises here, but I do think it's 50-50 fight. I just think Jalen Turner, he can't be took down. I'll see in the Favola fight where he had problems off his back. As we're seeing there, you know. So if Moises does get him down, there's going to be a lot of problems. He probably does submit him, but saying that, I haven't seen Jalen Turner be submitted in his whole career, so I don't know. But it's a close fight for me. Value say it is Turner, but I think Moises does sub him. Alright, moving on to the second fight in the main card. Michel Pereira versus Liam Imadaev. Never cashed a luckier bet than it did against Pereira. with Diego Sanchez in his most recent fight. So got very lucky there, but winning bets, can't really complain. As you all probably know, Pereira threw the legal knee there in round 3, where he was dominating the fight. He should have won that. Don't know how he didn't take a decision. He's a flake. Maybe flake's the wrong term, but he's not someone you want to put, hard-earned money on. When I sort of discovered that was the Conley fight, where he comes out, starts doing backflip cartwheels and all. Like, what's the point? It's not gonna hit. Starts doing all these acrobatics, which is just crazy to me. It's funny to watch, but it's not what you want to see in an MMA fighter that you're putting your hard-earned money on. So from that point on, Pereira's been dog or pass for me in all of his fights, and he comes in slight favourite in this one. It's basically pick him now against Salim Imadaev, but just on Pereira actually bet him against Danny Roberts. I thought he was gonna knock Roberts out just with his capoeira style, and he did in the first round by flying knee, followed up with a right hand, knocked him out viciously too. It was a bad knockout. And then Danny Roberts' next fight, I faded him again against Imadaev, who I thought would have a comfortable night at the office, and he did for the first round, but ended up getting caught in the second round and being KO'd, which it's annoying. But Imadaev was winning that fight until he wasn't. He just got knocked out. It's similar to the Hunter Azure fight against Kelleher that I was talking about earlier. He was winning until he just got a big nasty hook landed on him. And then we seen him get out grappled in the Max Griffin fight. But to be honest, I actually scored that fight a draw because Griffin won the first round 10-8, point deduction, and he out grappled Imadaev in it. But in rounds 2 and 3, I scored that for Imadaev. If you go look at the UFC stats, Imadaev, he has the better numbers in round 2 and 3, so that was a draw, that one, I thought. But if you go read up on Imadaev, he's a bit of a scumbag. He knew Danny Roberts before they fought. Sorry, not Danny Roberts, Max Griffin. He knew him before. They trained together. They sparred together. Imadaev seen him in the hotel lobby and was trying to, start a fight with him basically before the actual fight. Obviously, a couple of days leading up to it, media days. And he knew Max Griffin, and then Max Griffin was saying in an interview once that Imadaev was trying to knock him out and stuff in sparring. James Lynch was saying that, so he's a bad guy, Imadaev. I don't like him personally, but you can't take it away from him that he's a skilled fighter. He's good in the stand-up. He has good boxing. He always comes forward. Don't know if he'll be able to come forward against Pereira because he's so big and powerful, but this fight, I'm not touching it with 10-foot pole, but if it was gun to my head, I would choose Imadaev because he's a better grappler for one. He has a better cardio, I would say. Even though Pereira did look good in his last fight, he was more calculated, more measured against Diego Sanchez than he usually is. Not throwing all this stupid shit, but honestly, I can see Pereira taking him round 1 because he is good while he has the stamina. There's no denying that. He has good knees, he has good kicks, good teeps. I like his teeps. But Imadaev can take over the fight, especially in round 2 or 3, so it's a live bet fight for me. But I'm gonna say Imadaev wins. I'm not confident, but he is the underdog here. You can get him even money right now. Bad for it, I think. So I'll go with him by decision, I'm gonna say, because Pereira is hard to get out of there. He has a chin, huge welterweight, but cardio issues, and Imadaev will be coming forward here. But honestly, you can see it going either way, because he did show the more calculated approach in his most recent outing. I think he's learned from the Connolly fight that doing all that acrobatic cartwheel backflip shit, no use in an MMA fight. And actually Diego Sanchez was the one doing the stupid shit on him last time. He was doing the Rolling Thunders against Pereira, and it wasn't even Pereira doing them, which is interesting. But I mean, I think this fight can go either way. I think it'll go to the judges' scorecards, and I'll give the edge to Imadaev in that one by decision, but who knows? It's a good life bet for me. Eubanks versus Rosa next. Women's bantamweight, actually, I should say. That's right. Eubanks has moved up since her days at 125. She's no longer a flyweight. She's missed weight a few times for that weight class, but Eubanks is a solid boxer with good jiu-jitsu who looks good when she's fresh, much like Pereira. You know, she always has a good round one. The only round one I think she's lost in her career, or maybe not in her career, maybe since her Invicta days, was against Aspen Ladd, in my opinion. Where Aspen Ladd, she won the first round against Eubanks, and then I'm nearly sure I had Aspen Ladd winning the other 2 rounds, but Eubanks does come out strong. She's good where her cardio's strong. We've seen her gas round against Betts Coher, where, as I say, she did have a strong round 1, and then she slowed. But saying that, it's hard to take that fight into consideration because it was at Mexico City, was at elevation, like 2,000 feet above sea level. So, you know, that's probably why she gassed and why her cardio issues were more prominent. She fought Sarah Morris in her last fight, where she got a comfortable decision victory. But then again, she made the fight more close than it had to be, sort of by slowing down and letting Sarah Morris come into it, which is something I think like you can't do against Carl Rosa. Carl Rosa, very good Muay Thai game, a lot of inside leg kicks and a lot of straight punches, combined with, you know, outside leg kick as well. She's got good Muay Thai base. Eubanks relies on her boxing more than anything. You know, she's very boxing heavy, especially in comparison to Rosa, who'd say has a more, you know, Brazilian Muay Thai game. She trains at Gilbert Burns' camp. Cardio for days, but she's coming in on short notice in this one against Eubanks. She keeps a crazy pace, which I don't think Eubanks will be able to keep up with. I think Eubanks is going to have a strong round 1, and then I think she's going to slow down after that, and then I can see Rosa out-volume her for the remainder of the fight. So we've got Rosa by decision there. I'm somewhat confident in her, but I think Eubanks will win round 1, so I'd rather live bet it than anything. OSP versus Alonzo Menafield next, co-main event, which was meant to happen last week, but OSP, he tested positive for COVID, and then he is coming back. So it was meant to happen 2 weeks ago, actually. That's right. And then he's tested positive for COVID, and he's coming back off the positive COVID test into this fight, cutting weight twice in 2 weeks. If you go look at studies, COVID has a permanent effect on the lungs, and obviously, which will play into the cardio game of OSP. But we've yet to really see that, you know, to be true. I'm not saying it's not true, we just haven't really seen it in the confines of, you know, MMA. So as far as I can remember anyway. But yeah, so his cardio probably will be affected, but even an OSP with cardio or with COVID probably will have a cardio advantage over Minifield, who comes out bombing in round one and then slows down after that if he can't get the fighter out of there. We've seen it in the Devin Clark fight, and I knew Devin Clark was going to win that fight. I even have it in full card predictions that I sent out. And actually, I had it up on the Twitter page, that one. Devin Clark by decision. Didn't bet him though, for some reason. I don't know. I had a bad feeling about it, but it ended up coming through, even though obviously didn't bet it, which I regret. Because he was 2-1, so he was by outright money line. And then by decision, he was something crazy like 4-1. I actually had him by decision in my predictions, but as I say, I never bet him. Manafield, as he does, tried to get him out of there in round one, couldn't, end up gassing. Devin Clark brought like a heavy wrestling game, which is obviously the smartest thing to do. You know, you lean on Manafield because he's built like how he is. You make his muscles tired and you let him gas out. But saying that, OSP isn't really known for having a wrestling game. If he gets Manafield down, he's just going to wear him out, and he's probably going to submit him, to be honest, because Manafield does slow down. But if you just look at the record of St. Preux, like sort of a thing that I think is overlooked is OSP's chin. He very rarely gets knocked out. Very hard guy to put away with strikes, which is Manafield's whole game. The only person to do that's Jimmy Manoa. That was Manoa in his prime, who I would say is probably a better puncher than Manafield, especially in his prime. Jimmy Manoa was. So yeah, St. Preux got put out by him, but in his UFC has never got put out by strikes against anyone else. Manafield obviously isn't going to submit OSP, so realistically, you could say Manafield's only path to victory is by taking OSP out in round one, or by fighting calculated and possibly taking home a decision win. But it's not his style, and it remains to be seen whether he will ever take up that style, because I think it would suit him more, fighting like Romero more rather than just all out trying to get a finish. So I think Manafield tries to get OSP out, doesn't. OSP initiates like the clinch, starts to wear on Manafield, eventually gets S1 to the ground and submits him. So I'm taking a dog here. I'm taking OSP by sub, even after he has tested positive for COVID. Even still, I still think OSP wins here in this spot. He's much bigger, light heavyweight. Manafield's like 5'10". He is built like a brick shithouse, but OSP's much bigger, much longer, much better in the clinch, just all around better fighter. So I've got OSP by subbing that one, not betting it though. Overeem versus Sakai main event. Overeem, just UFC legend, MMA legend, combat sports athlete legend, going back to his K1 days. Just, he's a legend, Overeem. The only thing that's held him back in his career is his chin, but I think people make Overeem's chin out to be worse, worse than it is, because I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. We've seen it in the Wild Harris fight, the amount of shots he took against Harris, even when he was on the ground. Harris was putting all of his weight in, trying to pound him out. Overeem just took it. So his chin isn't as bad as you think. Which I just think it's worth reiterating. Overeem does fight at heavyweight. He's put out a lot, has got put out a lot, should I say, in his career. Some crazy amount of stoppages, but I still think he's all there. I still think his athleticism is there, but he's more calculated now. He's more He knows what he's good at. He fights more technical. There's no more Overeem days where he just goes in, sort of like Alonzo Manifield, and just tries to get people out of there. There's no more of that because he knows his weakness is his chin. So I think that Overeem, overall, better fighter everywhere than Sakai. Much more experience, better technically on the feet, better technically on the ground, better wrestling game, better clinch game. In my opinion, where Overeem will have the most success against Sakai is up against the cage in Muay Thai clinch. Because if he does, he has a deadly clinch game, deadly knees, probably most deadly in UFC ever. Most deadly knees in UFC ever, I think. So that's somewhere where he gonna have real success over him. But other than that, I think Overeem fights long. He's the bigger heavyweight here, not in terms of weight, in terms of height, size, reach. Obviously Sakai is the heavier heavyweight, comes in at 260 odds. But to be honest, Sakai hasn't really impressed me that much, as I think, as how much people's making him out to be. Split decision win over Orlovsky. That should have been Orlovsky's win. I scored it for him. Most media members did. Against Blagoy, Sakai got lucky because Ivanov was taking him down in the third round, and Sakai grabbed the fence, didn't get a point deduction. And if he get took down there and didn't grab the fence, he was going to lose that fight. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, unless Overeem stands in the pocket, which he hasn't done since the Overeem days, this should be Overeem's fight to lose here. As I say, much more technical fighter, better everywhere. I can just see Overeem fighting long, fighting like I did against Rosenstrike and Olenek, and just being patient and not being overly aggressive, leaving his chin vulnerable, doing what he's good at, doing what he, implementing his style in, later stages of his career, fighting long and just being a much more technical fighter and engaging in clinch opportunities when he can. That's just his whole game. As I say, Sakai hasn't impressed me as much as to being a main event fighter and stuff and come up against Overeem and stuff. I think this is Overeem's fight to lose. I think he has one more. If you look at his social media and stuff, he's saying, one last road to the title, and I think this is his last road to the title, and he's gonna do everything he can to get that last title shot. And I can see him. It's hard to me because I can either see a late Overeem finish or decision. I'm gonna go with decision, to be honest, because I think he's just gonna stay away from the power of Sakai and just patch at him and just outpoint him. So yeah, Overeem there by decision. So that's the card wrapped up. If you want to join, as I say, fire me across DM on Twitter. My Twitter's in the bio, in the description. So yeah, so good luck with your bets, and who knows, it might have a video out next week for the next card. We'll see what happens, but good luck everyone. I'll see you later.